Okay, well, welcome to session 5, Demonstrating Self-Management Skills. This session marks the third strand of criterion B. So after you finish the steps outlined in this video, you'll be finished criterion A and criterion B of your report, at least in the process journal. We'll talk about how to document these in the actual report a little bit later. So let's get into it. Starting off by looking at the assessment criteria, the top band of the assessment criteria wants to see you demonstrating excellent self-management skills. And this is the way it sort of breaks down for teachers when they're marking your assessment. They're going to be looking for a justification of the strengths and limitations of effective and independent time and task management. They're going to be looking for effective skills practiced throughout the project, and also highly effective use of other self-management skills. So the important thing to notice here is that the focus is on a justification. You're going to need to be able to justify this in your report, not in your process journal, but in the report if you want to score top marks. So again, it's always really important to look carefully at these command terms. And so to justify something, according to the IB, is to give it valid reasons or evidence to support an answer or conclusion. So if we're going to be justifying this in the report later on, we need to be developing that evidence and those reasons now in our process journal and in the process of developing our product or our outcome. So it's very important that you're mindful of this. It's not like a specific section of your process journal, but you should be able to find evidence of self-management skills from throughout this whole kind of journey to the personal project. So let's look at what the IB is talking about when they talk about self-management skills. Self-management skills for the IB break down into 3 different categories. There's organizational skills, affective skills, and reflection skills. Now for this assessment, the reflection skills are marked a little bit later on. So right now we're really focusing on organizational skills and affective skills. So again, throughout the whole kind of process of developing your product and your outcome, you need to be being mindful of, does your process journal contain evidence of when you're practicing and developing these organizational skills and these affective skills? Because again, you're going to have to justify that you did that if you want to score well in your report. So let's look at some examples of what counts as organizational skills. So you can see here on the right a few different examples. So it can be as simple as keeping and using a weekly planner. So that has to do with sort of closely linked with your planning skills that we talked about in earlier sessions. As well as using appropriate strategies for organizing complex information, understanding and using sensory learning preferences, so kind of being aware of what your learning style is and how are you sort of, choosing resources and choosing methods for yourself that are based around that, and even just using technology to sort of manage your time effectively. Do you have are you using reminders through different technology things? Are you using certain tech stuff that help you make time schedules or help you break down big tasks? So you're probably doing all of this stuff anyways, but making sure that you're sort of documenting it and understanding that, yeah, these are ways that you are developing your organizational skills will be very important later on in the personal project and when it turns to your report and actually having to kind of justify that, yes, you did this. Now, aside from just these organizational skills, you also need to be thinking about your affective skills. And affective skills are all about kind of managing your state of mind. And these are very important, not just for the project, but just in general. And it's a really important kind of core of the IB, trying to make sure that you are being mindful, that you're kind of persevering when you run into really tough difficulties, which surely you are in your personal project, kind of coming up against obstacles, whether those obstacles come from time management or just maybe setting a really difficult goal for yourself. How are you managing your emotions, making sure that you kind of keep up your motivation and that you're resilient so that you're kind of bouncing back from failures, big and small, and these different struggles along the way. So some of the things you can be kind of talking about in your journal or making sure that you're sort of, being aware of and writing down are, how are you practicing certain strategies to help you stay on task and not get distracted? How are you trying to reduce your stress and anxiety? What do you do when you're getting a little bit stressed out? And again, you're probably doing these things anyways, but taking the time to sort of, jot down into your process journal that maybe you were feeling a little bit stressed out with time management. And so maybe you're doing some specific organizational skills, but also what are you doing to kind of keep yourself sane and to keep yourself from going crazy during this process? making sure that you're sort of also documenting how are you bouncing back from adversity. If you had a tough meeting with a supervisor, or maybe some steps of your process just weren't really working out and you're really struggling, how are you bouncing back from those difficult things? Or if something goes really wrong and you kind of fail, how can you kind of take that failure and see it as a positive opportunity to grow rather than sort of becoming defeated by this? And probably one of the bigger points that people struggle with are the last two on the right here. So dealing with disappointment and unmet expectations. So we're pushing you guys to set really high standards for yourselves and your success criteria. How are you going to handle it? How are you going to be reflective when you don't necessarily get to meet every single one of your success criteria? And the other big one is change. Already students have come to see me that maybe they got nudged into a different direction, or they've had to rethink things after their first meeting with their supervisor. So making sure that you're documenting not only what is that literal change, but sort of how are you keeping an upbeat attitude and staying motivated when change can sometimes to other people feel like, again, like a defeat. So these are some of the affective skills you need to be practicing and documenting throughout. That's the end of this video. Again, please make sure that you're thinking of this as not just one little section on self-management skills, but this kind of forms part of your journal entries sort of throughout. So you can draw on all this rich evidence to justify this to score top marks for the third strand of Criterion B.